told his tale. And I will tell you mine. I remember pieces. Memories of different men. And I saw it. Your name. Victor Frankenstein. My creator. I demand a single grace from you. If you are not to award me love, then I will indulge in rage. Now, run.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me, as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, undead romantics. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. How the hell you doing?
I am doing well. It's been a busy week, and I'm gonna have a busy 3 days or 4 days of recording coming up, assuming nothing gets postponed again. So I'm getting prepared. Like I have everything watched that I need watched for two of the shows, and the weekend I'll watch some more movies for another show. But yeah, taking it all in stride. Also with us, it's Don and Nelly. What's up, Don?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right, so this week we are covering Del Toro's Frankenstein. So this had one of those interesting releases where I think technically where Venom lives, it opened, then it opened where I lived, and then a week later it hit Netflix. So lots of different ways to have seen this relatively quick within its release time. And as of the time we are recording, it has been on Netflix, I think, through last Friday. So it's pretty much widely available to whoever wants to watch it. You just have to have 2.5 hours available. But, you know, with it being on streaming now, that does make it somewhat easier than going to the theater for 2.5 hours. But not much to set up other than that. I mean, I don't really need a synopsis. It's Frankenstein. Everyone should be familiar with the story, more or less. I know there's been different adaptations, but most of them are roughly similar. They follow the same structure, so I'll just put it like that. So I don't even need to read a synopsis. It's Del Toro, it's Frankenstein. Venom, what are your general thoughts on this movie?
All right, my friends. Well, it's one of those things where people tend to throw the word masterpiece around and kind of use it as hyperbole. And I'm going to count myself among those numbers because, my friends, Frankenstein is a fucking masterpiece. There is not a wasted frame. There is not a wasted second of dialogue. I actually like Mia Goth in a movie. For anybody who knows how much I dislike Mia Goth, that should be a shocker to you right there. Like she was actually likable, a good subdued performance. She wasn't batshit insane like she is in a lot of her performances. I gotta say, it's weird because over the last couple of years, horror members of the horror community that I've always just kind of disliked are winning me over. Eli Roth, I've always said I've never really liked many movies that Eli Roth made, but then he did Thanksgiving and suddenly I'm on board. I see the love of horror that apparently other fans have been seeing for decades, but I was just always underwhelmed by his stuff. And then Mia Goth, again, just someone that the internet absolutely loves, and I've just never really seen why. And now there's a performance, and obviously, when you have a director like Guillermo del Toro, he's gonna get the best out of his actors and actresses every time, and he does the same thing here. I mean, my friends, this was 2.5 hours of absolute bliss for me. This movie is fucking gorgeous. Every frame is amazing. Multiple scenes in here. The artistic work that Guillermo and his team puts into their films it's just stunning. I mean, him and Robert Eggers right now are just dominating great filmmaking, in my opinion. The little tiny little touches that many people might not even notice, but if you do notice them, you're just like, goddamn, Guillermo. I mean, little things like the fact that the monster has two different hair colors. And obviously, when you see the creation of the monster, it makes sense that he has two different hair colors because he doesn't have just one scalp. He's got multiple pieces of scalp. I mean, it's little touches like that that have no bearing on the movie that 90% of people maybe won't even notice, but it just elevates Guillermo to, he's not just a director, he is absolutely an auteur. Now, obviously, I am very biased as Guillermo del Toro is my favorite director, but my friends, if this was a Blumhouse movie, I would be praising it. It's just so well made. The score, the the score is amazing. Even though it gets a little sappy at the end with its music, it's still just every beat is fucking perfect. The violence, this is easily one of the most violent Frankenstein movies out there, while still staying true to the human Prometheus, of course. Obviously, there's like crazy underground Frankensteins out there that bring the gore. I understand that, but they're not going for artistic merit. Something like this, made by an absolute auteur, but then you still have scenes of guys getting their heads punched off. I mean, a simple thing like a broken nose looked, sounded, and you could feel the pain of it. It just, I'm sorry, I can't get over it. This cast, holy shit. I mean, this is a cast that has Ralph Ineson, potentially one of the best living actors right now, and he's only in one scene, but it was fine. That was all you needed, because you also get Oscar Isaac and Mia Goth and Jacob Elordi as the monster. I mean, this is I'm sorry, Boris. I'm sorry, Glenn. This is the best Frankenstein monster portrayal ever. It's got just the right amount of sap without getting too overboard. The minor story changes that Guillermo does are absolutely perfect. That they subverted our expectations in certain scenes, and then of course they just served up exactly what we expected in many other scenes as well. But I'm going to sit here and this episode is going to be pretty much a gush fest. I am going to be gushing over this movie every moment that I'm speaking. I literally have nothing negative to say about it. The runtime, 2.5 hours, nothing. The Kenneth Branagh from 1994, that Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, that movie is a half hour shorter than this one, but this movie, Guillermo's Frankenstein feels a half hour shorter than the Kenneth Branagh one because you're so invested. Yes, there are slow moments. Yes, there's going to be maybe pacing issues for certain people. But when you're sitting there and you're really appreciating the set design, the sound design, the camera composition, just every element of filmmaking is top notch in this movie. I can't get over it. This is an absolute 10 out of 10. This is easily a top 2 movie for me for the year. I have to obviously revisit. And then, of course, as we record this, another potential top 10 movie is being released tomorrow in Oz Perkins' Keeper, one that I've been really looking forward to. So, I mean, this has been a pretty monumental week for movies and for potentially my top 10 at the end of the year. I could sit here and talk about this movie for hours and hours, but I'm just gonna end my general thoughts here and say I loved every fucking second of this movie. You could take any frame from this movie and stick it up on your wall as a poster. I mean, every shot is gorgeous. Every shot is intentional. Every lens flare, it's all impeccable. Like I said, acting, score, and ultimately, I understand the runtime is going to be an issue for some people. For me, I wish it was longer. Honestly, I would have loved to have heard more of the monster's tale. I love that the movie is split up into chapters, into a prelude, Victor's story, and then the creature's story. I love that all the stories are told in kind of in first person. Like flashbacks. Oh my God. I'm going to shut myself up here because, like I said, I can talk about this movie forever. I want to leave something for my co-host to talk about. And hopefully, well, maybe not hopefully, but maybe they'll bring something negative to the table because, my friends, I have absolutely nothing negative to say about this movie. This is top-notch filmmaking. And thank you, Netflix. Thank you for giving Del Toro the budget that he needed to make the goddamn masterpiece that he wanted to. And I'm really, really, after getting kind of low on Netflix, I'm actually genuinely appreciating what they're doing. They're giving these big time directors large budgets to make their movies, releasing them in theaters for very limited runs, and then throwing it on Netflix right away. And the fact that they put it in theaters even for a week means that the movie is now an Oscar candidate. For those who don't know, movies that play only on television cannot be what do you call it? They don't hit the condition for being a potential Oscar nominee. It has to play in a theater for 1 week in a major city. Literally, if it plays in one theater in LA, it's eligible for Oscar contention. And thank you, Netflix. Like I said, I cannot wait to see obviously they did it with Scorsese and the Departed. How often are you going to be able to watch a 4-hour movie in a theater? Not very often, but Netflix was like, oh yeah, you want to make a 4.5-hour movie? Here's a shitload of money. Go ahead and do it. And he literally made one of his best fucking movies ever. And I know that might be a contentious statement, since he didn't actually win an Oscar for The Irishman or anything like that. But goddamn, thank you, Netflix, for really trusting in directors, allowing them to do their thing, not being like the big studios where you got your nose all in their business and trying to give them notes and everything else. So yeah. For the third time now, let me go ahead and shut up and let my co-host talk because, my friends, this thing is amazing. If you have access to Netflix, by all means, watch this movie. Even if you have to watch it in stages, because I understand the 2.5-hour runtime might be a little daunting for some people, especially if you have families or, whatever the case may be. So watch it in stages if you have to. Watch the prelude, then watch Victor's story, then watch the creature's story. It's split up beautifully, so you can do that. So yeah, I'm going to shut up now and say this is a goddamn masterpiece and I loved every second of it. So back to you, Mike.
All right, let's go over to Dawn. What are your general thoughts on Frankenstein?
I'm not quite there. I can definitely understand Venom's viewpoint. I do share a lot of similarities with him, but I'm just not quite there. I do think that this is probably the best Frankenstein, the best film, either adapted from or tells the tale of Frankenstein. At least from a technical standpoint, I do enjoy the Universal series, even some of the sequels. I'm not a fan of the Hammer adaptations. Usually they're fun when the monster is on screen. But when it's not, for some reason, I don't find myself as invested in that series as I do maybe the Dracula series, or some of their other films. Uh, some of the chintzy, low budget stuff that kind of comes out doesn't really move me that much. So yeah, I definitely do think that this is easily like the most visually striking, and probably I would say like the most technically accomplished version of the story. How close it is remains to be seen, but um, in that regard, yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, the opening shots of the monster stalking the group along the icy tundra, they look incredible. The scenes of him in the lab are fantastic. I love the layout of the whole facility, the gears, the machines, all of that. It just looks fantastic. When it gets to the monster being released, that's kind of where I kind of have some issues with it. It's just really, really difficult to overlook the fact that this guy doesn't have the physique required to fit into that time period. I realize that the guy gives a great performance. The monster's sympathetic. We feel for him. He wants his master's approval. He wants love and acceptance, and he wants to be appreciated because he didn't have the right to life. He's a creature that didn't have any real bearing on whether or not he's alive, he has any right to any of that. I get that, but the scenes of him showing off, the monster's creation, he keeps them in the basement, and you see the monster chained up and all that. You still see the way the monster has more of a physique like a modern day Olympic swimmer. Damn it, I wish I would have done something about that, but the monster just doesn't have the look of a person that belongs in that century, and it kind of looks distracting when you're giving numerous close-ups on it, just highlighting how great a shape the guy is. Even underneath all the makeup, it pulls me out of the film because it doesn't have the look of somebody that belongs in that period. Karloff, he had the look of, he wasn't chiseled, he wasn't ripped, he was, a big burly dude, he was in shape, and it kind of lent itself to that kind of a style. Later, in the Hammer series, you get Christopher Lee in there. He's a guy, he was probably in his late 40s, early 50s by that time. He's not really chiseled and ripped. He's just a big, tall, imposing, massive dude naturally. So it kind of lends itself to that look. And some of the other, Frankensteins over the years, they followed that. They don't have, the chiseled, ripped, muscular dude. They just have naturally big, barrel-chested guys that look the part. And it's not a detrimental issue, but it's just one where it kind of pulls me out of the film quite a bit. And I get the same feeling with Mia Goth. I understand this is probably one of her better appearances. It's just her face. It just reminds me of Mia Goth, and she just does not look like somebody that belongs in the 18th century Victorian England. And I'm always reminded of the fact that it's still Mia Goth, and it just doesn't have that emotional weight that I think a lot of her scenes really should have had. Again, it's a great performance. I like the character. I like the interactions between her and the creature, her and Frankenstein. I love the fact that it plays up the idea that Frankenstein's an asshole and he's not somebody that we're supposed to be really on board with. He's not somebody that is the hero of the story. I don't know if this is going to be a spoiler or not, but if you've seen the story, the reason why the monster is the way he is because Frankenstein outright rejects him. He's designing the creature as a symbol of perfection. He wants the absolute best. He selects the best body parts, he selects the best physique, he selects the best minds, he selects the best of everything, and he's supposedly bringing the creature to life to show how great he looks, how great everything comes together. But then when you see him come to life, the fact that he's still an infant, the fact that he doesn't have, an adult level intelligence, the fact that he doesn't have he's not the best at everything, that's when Frankenstein rejects the monster and it sends him off on his rampage, because that's all he wants. He wants his master's acceptance, his approval, his love, but doesn't get it because Frankenstein looks at him as an abject failure. It's supposed to be an idea of how cruel Frankenstein really is, that he treats this being that he created the way he does to set off the rampage that the monster does. I get that impact from the feeling from their interactions, and I get the way that it brings together that sort of storyline. But at the end of the day, my head is it's still Mia Goth, and that just is really unfortunate because she becomes such an integral part of the storyline in the second and third acts, where that's where we bring the monster's rampage into focus. And like I said, it's a great performance. It just really highlights it's Mia Goth on screen, and it's really distracting. Beyond that, though, I don't have much of anything in the complaints. Yeah, it's a ladder burster for 2.5 hours. I understand why it needs to do that. A lot of the stuff that it goes into detail on, I assume many of the speeches are close to, if not book accurate. I don't know, but you know, we need the idea of Frankenstein as that kind of a person. We need the idea of um I forget her name now. Damn it. Whatever Mia Goth's character is, we need her interactions as a sort of counterpoint against what's going on. Like I said, it's just the idea that the monster just looks way too modern, has way too good of a physique, and try as she can, I still just see Mia Goth in the role. But yeah, beyond that, I don't have any issues or complaints. Film moves smoothly enough. I will sit there and I will follow Venom's lead on all of the technical prowess that he bestowed upon the film, just as loud as he did, if not vociferously as he did. The gore looks great. The action is fun. Yeah, there's not much in this I don't like, but it's just those few factors that keep it from me wanting to blow it as much as Venom does. But yeah, I'll be right there. I'll take sloppy seconds or thirsty thirds if you want. But yeah, definitely worth the time. Definitely worth a watch. Definitely, I won't say top 10, but I'm definitely gonna say it's gonna be towards the middle of my list. I don't see much really shifting where I have it, unless some really wild stuff comes out in the last month and a half. But yeah, it's definitely middle of the pack. I would say maybe top 5, 6, 7 at the worst. But yeah, this is a definite really, really, really strong showing. And yeah, I was really glad that I would have not have been able to last in the theater with my back as it did. So I'm glad we waited on this. So uh, yeah, I guess I'll end it there. And I guess back to you, Mike.
Okay, so I did end up seeing this in the theater when it opened, and I thought it was very good. This looks great. It sounds great. The story's epic. I love some of the set pieces on this. It just seeing it in the theater just gave it that really big, over the top, like story. Um, it felt, you're transported into this time period of when it's taking place. Um, I think on a technical level, it's one of my favorite movies of the year. It was just fun to watch. It was fun to look at. It was fun to listen to. Um, I don't have like much criticism. Like I'm trying to think. The only thing I can like think of, and I read Frankenstein. It had to have been like way back in junior high, maybe. So since then, like I've mostly like seen other adaptations of it. I mean, if the only thing I can maybe think of, but I don't know if this is more true to the actual book versus some of the adaption, like the movies adaptions of Frankenstein, is I thought the monster, like, and I think this is more Del Toro, and maybe that's why he wanted to do this adaptation because you can tell not from just this movie, but a lot of his movies, he has a real reverence and a real sympathetic streak for just monsters in general. Like he always is looking to I don't want to say humanize. I don't know if humanize him is the right word, but he kind of wants to like show um the I guess maybe there's human nature in there. They're kind of like cursed creations or beings or whatever. Um, and I felt like to me there was a little lack of edge to the monster in this because like most of the killing or the violence he did was pretty much all justified to me. And like I just think of like some of the Frankenstein movies I've seen where like there's it felt like there was a little more duality in the fact that like he's sympathetic, but he also does some fucked up shit that's like shouldn't have done because he still is a monster. Even though like I totally get why we are sympathetic because he didn't ask to be created. You can consider him an abomination, and he's really kind of like the product of his creator and like what went into that. So it's not that like you're blaming him for the bad stuff he does, but it's still bad stuff. Where in this movie, and now I didn't have a chance to watch it a second time, so there was a lot to try to remember. But from what I can remember, like I don't know, maybe the initial attack on the ship, you could say like he was beating up some people that didn't deserve it, but like it seemed like most of the carnage um was justified. Like I know he was defending the family. Maybe later in the movie when he was going after Frankenstein's brother and when he was getting angry about wanting to have a companion, maybe he did some over the top shit that like wasn't justified, but I don't know. It seemed like there was a little bit of a lack of an edge to the monster, but other than that, but it's not even that big of a gripe because overall, I think this is just an epic presentation. Like it's what I would have wanted out of this. It doesn't feel like anything was shortchanged when making this. The I love the whole construction and setup of Frankenstein's lab. It's just and I was like very curious how they're going to do that because I think in like most adaptions of the story that the lab is always cool to see like how they're going to put together the means to create the monster, and I didn't think it disappointed in that area either. um it's hard to add because like everyone seemed to like it a lot and I did too. I know it's too late now because it's been a couple of weeks, but I was gonna say like if for anyone, if it's still playing in the theater in your city, I highly recommend it seeing it on like the biggest screen you can because I think just the story, when you're talking about these set pieces and these great vast lands of like uh of this era and like I think it to do it like true justice, it should be seen on a big screen if possible. I know for everyone it's not always possible, but I had a blast. Like when I go to the theater to see like a big monster movie, this is kind of like what I expect to see in a best case scenario is a movie like this. And I think this is the type of story that Del Toro excels at, especially his American movies. He has a keen like sensibility for monsters in general, like in many of the movies he does. So I'm interested to see what he does next. I think I remember him saying in some interview that like his next one he's gonna move away from like not horror necessarily, but kind of like the monster movie subgenre of horror. So I am curious because like after this, like what do you do? This is almost like a like your epic masterpiece, as Venom put it. So I am curious to see what he does next. But yeah, overall, great movie. I will see this again before the end of the year. Um, because it'll probably be in consideration at the least. So, yeah, very good, great. Even back to you, Venom.
I'm very confused about your comment about his mean streak or whatever. It's like, I think you might have missed the point. Don't forget, he's not born a monster. He's basically a baby. He's a child. He becomes a monster because of his rejection by both his father and society. And I think that's kind of the common thread amongst every Frankenstein adaptation we've ever had. Like Frankenstein doesn't like wake up and just start killing people. At least I've never seen that version of the movie. I'm sure there is one that exists out there where Frankenstein's just a maniacal monster that kills every living thing in front of him. But in general, that's not. I don't know. And then I'm even trying to think of a Frankenstein movie that would fit Mike's description, and I can't think of one. Like Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein, he didn't have that much of a mean streak. Obviously not Boris. I mean, if anything, Boris was a sweetheart. I mean, don't forget, he loved that little girl, which, by the way, is a scene I'm very glad that Guillermo skipped. I really did not need to see that again, the accidental death of the little girl. I'm very happy with how they did that aspect of the story, with him and the blind man and then the blind man's family. I was actually way happier with this than what we get in the novel or in previous adaptations. So, but yeah, I cannot say enough good things about this goddamn movie. And I mean, mean streak, for fuck's sake, he punches somebody's head off. He literally punches an innocent man's head off at the boat, which I mean, that's probably the first kill in the movie, and it's just so shocking because you're not expecting that level of violence from a Frankenstein movie. And granted, it's not like the movie's violent, through and through, not by any stretch, but there are multiple scenes in there that definitely bring the gore, if you will, broken bones and oh god, he fucking skinned one of the wolves. That was fucking epic. God damn it. Anyway, I was thinking, I don't know that we have any real need for a walkthrough. It's Frankenstein. I mean, we know the story. The outline of the story is here, the same outline that we get from every other the novel or every other Frankenstein adaptation that we've had. I mean, we could talk a little bit about some of the differences, some of the things that Guillermo changed, enhanced, things like that. But I mean, a walkthrough, it's Frankenstein, for fuck's sake. We know Victor Frankenstein is the villain. He is absolutely always the villain in the Frankenstein movie. He is always our antagonist, and the monster is always our protagonist, period. Despite the monster in almost every adaptation doing bad things to bad people and sometimes to good people, but ultimately, it's kind of like the Cloverfield monster in Cloverfield. He was just a confused child. It's not like he was trying to destroy New York City. He was just trying to get back home. He didn't know where the hell he was. There's these little ants that are shooting at him. I mean, and that's the nature of, and I talk about this on Creature Comforts all the time. It's the nature of a great monster movie, is that the monster is a sympathetic character. It is very rare that a monster wants to hurt people and wants to go out and, obviously there's many examples of that. And we've talked a lot about, various examples of that on Creature Comforts. But in my opinion, the best monster movies are when the monster is sympathetic. And Guillermo has a way of taking these atrocious looking entities and making them somebody that we cheer for, that we root for. I mean, he did it in The Shape of Water. He did it in Hellboy. He's done it over and over again in so many movies, and I hope he continues to do it. Obviously, he can't just stick with horror the rest of his life. I mean, how many directors do nothing but horror over a 30, 40, 50-year career? Not to say that Guillermo was directed for 50 years, but he's easily hit 30 plus years at this point. So more than likely he'll hit 40 and 50, barring any, tragedies or anything. But God damn, this movie. I don't know. I mean, what can we really talk about here during the spoiler segment? I mean, there's not really anything to spoil, you know? Some
Oh,
minor, go ahead, Mike.
well, I was gonna say we can ask about like what'd you think of Mia Goth's character because they kind of did the bride stuff a little different, correct? Like,
They didn't do the bride at all, actually, and I'm very glad about that.
well,
Because don't forget, go ahead.
no, I felt like the when I was watching in the theater, and I haven't revisited, but it seemed like a lot of people thought this that what they did with Mia Goth's character kind of her I'll call it her conclusion in the movie. It was almost like a symbolic way of doing the bride without actually doing the bride
Mm.
because they end up kind of together in that cave and we she isn't officially turned into like Bride of Frankenstein, but it's almost like in a way he got that little bit of companionship before she was like gone from the movie. So
Uh, I don't know. I feel like you're grasping at straws only because you have prior knowledge of the Bride of Frankenstein. You know, because it's something that we all probably expected. Once we saw that Elizabeth was in the movie, and, you know, if we remember the 1994 Frankenstein, we know Elizabeth's fate in that movie. So I think, yeah, maybe you were expecting it, but I'm going to say there's zero Bride of Frankenstein in this movie. I mean, zero. I just don't see it. You know, I mean, a woman being sympathetic of and let's be honest, this is a fairly sexy fucking Frankenstein. I mean, Jacob Elordi is not exactly hard to look at for the ladies. Yeah, they ugly him up a little bit. They give him the scars and everything, but like Don said, he's basically an Adonis. So uh, like I said, Guillermo has a great way of and you mentioned humanizing earlier. That was actually the perfect word. Guillermo loves humanizing his characters. Again, Shape of Water, Hellboy, all the great creature movies that he's done. He is absolutely 100% humanizing them and making them the protagonists instead of the antagonists in his films. And I just absolutely love that about him. But let's talk about some of the minor differences that we got in this movie. I mean, one of the first ones is the fact that Victor has a brother. Now, it's not the first time that Victor has had a younger brother, but it's the first time that he's played such a huge role in the story. Obviously, because, of course, if you saw the movie, you know that Elizabeth is not Victor's fiance, as with most of the adaptations that we see. It's actually William, the little brother, Victor's little brother, and which also adds that weird element of the love triangle thing, because he does, of course, profess his love for Elizabeth, but then doesn't force it. Like, he doesn't turn into a creeper, you know, he doesn't try to rape her or anything too crazy. He gets rejected and he accepts that rejection. And obviously, once the shit hits the fan with the monster, he kind of, you know, gets out of that crazy fog, if you will. You know, he realizes that, wow, I was being really insane. And, you know, I regret a lot of what I did, both to the monster and to Elizabeth. And he tried to apologize to Elizabeth for it, but obviously Elizabeth kind of saw through his bullshit right from the beginning. Another reason I actually like this version of Elizabeth is that she was fucking smart, very perceptive, incredibly perceptive, and but without trying to take over every scene that she's in. That's always been one of my biggest complaints about Mia Goth, is she tries to take over every fucking scene that she's in by being either crazy or over the top energetic or something along those lines. And she doesn't do that here. She was very demure. I think demure is the perfect word. She was a very demure woman, very controlled. You know, the only time she really lost her cool was when she slapped Victor on her wedding day, which anybody who saw the movie knows it's very warranted. So, yeah, like I said, and the fact that Elizabeth isn't as big a part of this story as in some other versions. Obviously, in any adaptation of Bride of Frankenstein, she's basically the main character. But in some of the Frankenstein versions where they actually delve into the Bride of Frankenstein, Elizabeth is usually a much bigger character. And even though her presence has weight in a lot of scenes that she's not in, the fact that she's not in a lot of scenes, maybe that's why I liked her so much in this movie, because we got her in small doses. Sometimes I like actors in small doses as opposed to them being the star of the film, you know? So yeah, like I said, Elizabeth is the fiance of Victor Frankenstein's younger brother. I talked a little bit about how they did not do the little girl, the Frankenstein monster accidentally killing the little girl. This time there is still a misunderstanding, where he tries to save the blind man from a wolf attack, which is really some of the only CG in the movie. That's another thing. This is a 2025 movie that was mostly practical. And we're talking a big budget too. I mean, obviously Guillermo prefers practical effects to CGI, but even Guillermo utilizes CGI when he needs to. Obviously, with the wolves and the mice, all the scenes with Frankenstein chumming up, or the monster. I've explained this on another show, and I'm going to explain it again. I call the monster Frankenstein, and I do it unapologetically. The monster considers Victor his father. What do you inherit from your father? His fucking last name. So if Victor is a Frankenstein, then the fucking monster is a Frankenstein. So I say that anytime somebody corrects me when I call the monster Frankenstein, that's exactly my defense. Fuck you. He is the son of Victor Frankenstein, which makes him a fucking Frankenstein. I'm done with that rant. Anyway.
It always made sense to me. Like, I never had a problem with calling the monster Frankenstein either. It's like
right. It's just a lot of pretentious people. Yeah, exactly. It's just a lot of pretentious people just like to correct you. They want to feel like they're the smartest person in the room, and it's like, motherfucker, did you watch the movie or read the book? He literally calls Victor father.
Yeah,
I share my last name with my father too. I mean, if you say Cortez, I know you're talking about me. I don't automatically assume you're talking about my father. I mean, that would be fucking ridiculous. So let's stop with the whole it's Frankenstein's monster, not Frankenstein. If I never ever hear that statement again, I can die a happy man. But I know I will hear it again because people are fucking pretentious.
It feels like people are reducing the discussion to like a trivia question. Like, we get it. We know.
Exactly. Thank you. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, back to it. So yeah, like I said, no little girl death, but he does still become friends with the blind man. Unfortunately, the blind man does, end up succumbing to his wounds after a wolf attack, a pretty awesome wolf attack after the monster shows up and just decimates half of that pack. I love how they ran. I love how the last few of them ran away scared. It's so great. they're these big alpha creatures, and then as soon as they see one of their own get skinned, or I guess scalped would be a better way to put it, because he basically skinned his head. So, kind of an intense scalping, if you will. But obviously CGI, but it came out of nowhere for me, because I was fully expecting him to just break the wolf's neck, but instead he grabs it by the scruff and just tears down. Oh, so good. So yeah, there's that difference. Obviously, with the fact that Elizabeth is not Victor Frankenstein's a fiance, the monster doesn't feel the need to try to get revenge on Victor by going after Elizabeth. The creature, technically the creature is not even really going after Elizabeth. He confronts the doctor to have him make him a companion, which of course the doctor refuses, because by this point Frankenstein has figured out that no, it was insane for me to even try to do that, and I'm not going to do it again just because you tell me to, blah, blah, blah. I actually thought he was going to do it himself. Like when he picked up Elizabeth's body after Frankenstein accidentally shot her, I figured maybe he was educated enough that he found Frankenstein's notes and was just going to do it himself. But I'm so happy they subverted that. Like I said, for those who don't know, The Bride of Frankenstein is my favorite Universal horror movie, bar none. I absolutely adore that movie. But this one, this may take over the spot as my favorite fucking Frankenstein movie. Like I said, I apologize to Boris and Glenn earlier, but I'm sorry, Jacob Elordi, like without being too overly sappy, and admittedly the movie gets sappy at the end, but I mean if a movie's going to get sappy it might as well be at the end when you don't have to sit in the theater for another hour having to live with all that sap. So like I said, very happy with it, very happy with the ending. The ending actually here is a little bit even sadder than say Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein, because if you remember from that version, Frankenstein basically, him and Victor basically, or the monster and Victor basically just go up in flames together. So I mean, we're left to assume that the monster dies, but and that was another thing I really liked about this one was basically the monster's healing factor. I love that he was basically Wolverine in this movie. He could get shot umpteen times and still come get back up. He literally held a full stick of dynamite in his hand as it exploded, and literally a couple of minutes later he's back up like, oh, whatever. I actually kind of dug that because it does make sense. I mean, you basically implanted an artificial source of power into this creature by utilizing the lightning, as we've always seen. It doesn't make sense that that power would just die if you shoot the guy in the head or, stab him in the heart or whatever. So I was actually really happy with that element of it. What else? What other differences did we get in this one? I gotta say too, there were some great shots in this movie when they get to the battlefield after the battle that happens that we don't actually see. It's basically Victor Frankenstein collecting body parts. That first shot with the frozen horse was fucking amazing. That shot was so cool with basically a horse in mid gallop, basically frozen in the ice with his rider still on him, both of them frozen in the snow. I absolutely love that shot. And then the way that the camera panned out to show all the dead bodies on the battlefield and Victor and his team going around picking the body parts that they wanted. I also thought that this was a much more visceral creation of the monster. I mean, in chapters past, we've had Frankenstein monsters that are made of like 4, maybe 5 parts. This guy literally was made up of dozens of, I mean, to the point where Victor was just taking strips of flesh off of certain bodies. And you could see on the monster after after his rebirth, you could see where the connections are, where different tracks of skin were connected together. Like I said, and like I mentioned earlier with the fact that the monster is basically a brunette, but there's a patch of blonde hair growing on the right side of his head. Fucking brilliant. Just like I said, something that most people probably wouldn't even notice, but if you're a fan of filmmakers like Guillermo, like Stanley Kubrick, like Robert Eggers, you see that stuff and you appreciate it. You appreciate the fact that they took the time to even do it, because he didn't have to do it. He didn't have to put that blonde patch in there, but he did. And at least somebody like me can appreciate it. I mean, here I am raving about it, so obviously it was worth it. I don't know. What other differences did we get in this one? Like I said, it's a fairly what do you call it? Faithful adaptation of the Human Prometheus. Obviously without any of the bride stuff, but for me, like I said, this may be the greatest Frankenstein movie I've ever seen. Not just modern Frankenstein movie, but greatest ever. And it's not just because of the visuals. It's not just because of how it looked or how it sounded or the fact that it was one of the more violent Frankenstein movies, at least in some of the deaths in here. Just the amazing acting. The fact that, there's an actress in here who I've hated since the first day she appeared on the scene, and now I actually kind of like her because of her very subdued and demure performance here. I don't know. What else can we really talk about here? Like I said, the movie is stunning to look at. It's stunning to listen to. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
I was just going to reiterate, like, to me, everything that takes place when he's actually telling the story, like in the on the ship, in the ice,
Yeah.
in that cold weather, just how it's very dreary. But like even the scenes when they're kind of walking around the ship and trying to get it unstuck from the ice, and when I think it was so well done when I think it's at the end when Frankenstein or the monster or whatever goes to help push the ship out. It just looks so cool. Like I thought the
Yeah.
effects were really well done when there was so much potential for it to look like corny and like if
Yeah.
they would have like gone cheap on the visual effects, but it just looks so good. Yeah, it was just impressive. Like,
Mhm.
I wish I don't know if it's still playing in theaters everywhere or some places because
I doubt it.
man, I just wish more people had the opportunity to see it in the theater.
No, it's valid. And then the addition of the new creature. Obviously, Guillermo, with every movie, has to have his very original creatures. And in this one, we get the Dark Angel, who was pretty. Now, granted, we only see the Dark Angel maybe like twice in the whole movie. And it's basically presented to us as a dream that Victor Frankenstein had of an avenging angel who, at first, is this beautiful looking angel, and he thinks that he is basically that the appearance of the angel in his dream is basically God saying, yes, you have my permission to go ahead and do what you're about to do. But then the angel turns completely red, and the second time that we see the angel, it takes its mask off and it's just a skull under there, pretty much revealing that that ain't no angel. That's something else, my friends. But like I said, again, Victor kind of misinterpreted his dream there. But fucking Guillermo, even when he just throws a creature, like how much work did that fucking Dark Angel take for it to be on screen for what, all of 10 seconds between the two scenes that it's in? And just again, the care that he takes with every single scene, the care that he takes with the CGI wolves, the sheep, the mice. Like I said, I even loved how the mice were kind of chumming up to Frankenstein after it got to the blind man's house, and we see how the mice are just kind of following him around. I don't know if they're just fascinated with them or if they actually like them, but it seemed like I mean, did you notice that how every animal in the movie, except the wolves, of course, seemed to really like Frankenstein? Like that deer let him walk right up to it and fucking feed it out of its hand, like hand feed this deer or elk or whatever the fuck it was, berries from its hand. Like that says a lot. That talks about the innocence of this thing. That's why Mike's comment about the mean streak kind of missing in this one kind of left me scratching my head, because I never really saw that in any adaptation of Frankenstein I've ever seen. I mean, there might be one or two independent ones, like I said earlier, where Frankenstein's just a marauding murder machine. But aside from that, like when somebody's making a Frankenstein movie and they're actually trying to make an artistic film, I just don't remember Frankenstein having an aggressive streak in him. I mean, he gets attacked and he attacks back. And obviously, he doesn't know his own strength, hence why he can punch somebody's fucking head off. God, I still can't get over that scene. I'm sorry. And I love it because he didn't, this wasn't like Jason Takes Manhattan where Jason punches the boxer and his head comes clean off. No, the head didn't come clean off. It still had a little bit of flesh connecting to it, so it just kind of bent backwards like a Pez dispenser. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm raving about that scene so much, but I actually had to rewind it. Like it's the first kill in the movie, so it's just shocking. Like I'm like, holy shit, Guillermo really went for the gore in this one. And again, practical. I mean, I rewound it like 2 or 3 times, and that is definitely, you can see where the cut is. It's definitely a practical effect. It was so great. Obviously, the animals are CGI, but there's nothing you can do about that. But ultimately, great filmmakers do still use CGI. It's a matter of how they use it. Are they abusing it? Is every single scene with the creature or creatures CGI, or is it just kind of peppered in the way that Guillermo does? Because, ultimately Guillermo's had CGI in almost all of his big budget movies. Obviously his early stuff like Kronos and The Devil's Backbone, stuff like that probably didn't have a whole lot of CGI. But once he started getting budgets, yeah, I mean, you know, you're going to use it. I mean, it makes life easy. And I understand why directors use it. But when they use it well is when they should be praised for it, not when they rely on it. When they rely on it, it just kind of shows the weakness of the filmmaking. So I don't know, gentlemen, what else can we really talk about? There's not, you know, we talked about a few of the differences. There's not a whole lot. It's really just little differences here and there. But these performances, like Oscar Isaac, man, Oscar Isaac does a great job of making sure that you dislike this Victor Frankenstein. Like, I actually thought in the 1994 version that Kenneth Branagh was trying to make Frankenstein the protagonist of that one. Like, he was trying to be more likable than he actually is. But Oscar Isaac didn't have any of that pretension. He was an asshole from the start, and he's not an asshole by the time he dies, but that's the point of the movie, is that, you know, people change. Obviously, a shitload had to happen for Victor to change, but eventually he did, and eventually the monster did forgive him before his death, which is the most human thing that we can do. To be wronged by someone, to be hurt by someone, to literally someone attempting murder on you, but then you still forgive them. Like, that's one of the most human things out there. So again, this adaptation was just amazing. You guys really need to shut me up, because I'm going to keep going for 2 hours if you let me.
Well, next year, unrelated to this, we are getting The Bride. I'm sure you've got a trailer,
which I'm also looking forward to. I mean, but that looks like a very different movie. Like, it doesn't look like the, you know, the artistic, auteur type film that we got here. This one looks a little bit more fun. Christian Bale looks like almost like DC's Frankenstein. I don't know how familiar you guys are with DC's Frankenstein, but like Eric Frankenstein in the DC universe, he's Eric Frankenstein. But he is the monster, but he actually has a name. See, that's another example I can use for calling the monster Frankenstein, because in DC Comics, his name is Eric Frankenstein. So, there you go.
Yeah, the Bride looks more high concept, stylized, almost like they're creating like a universe around it. And I think it
almost looked like an Oz Perkins movie at times. Like, some of the scenes with like the bride looking into the camera and speaking, it just reminded me of something that Oz would do, like something that he might have done in The Monkey, you know, with the protagonist kind of looking in the camera and speaking, blah, blah, blah.
Takes place in the 1930s.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, that's even better. I didn't see the whole trailer. Like I said, if it plays in theaters, I try to look down and not pay attention. But lately I've been forgetting my AirPods, so I end up accidentally seeing trailers I don't really want to see, or should I say hearing trailers, because I like I said, I try to keep my eyes averted so I don't see anything. But and I've even taken to going to the theater late lately. Like, you know that there's going to be 20 to 30 minutes of crap before your movie, be they commercials, trailers, you know, Coca-Cola ads, Nicole Kidman, whatever the case may be. If you go to AMC, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so yeah, my friends, if you are a fan or have ever been a fan of Frankenstein, of any adaptation of the basic story, even if you're just a fan of the original novel, The Modern Prometheus, this is a must watch in my opinion. And the fact that it's available on Netflix makes the runtime a little bit less daunting, because like I said, it is broken up into 3 chapters. The first chapter is only like 15-20 minutes, but then the next 2 chapters are each at least an hour long. So there's really nice places to like stop the movie and then pick it up another day, you know, if time is an issue. But yeah, there's no excuse not to see this. I mean, Jacob Elordi, I know nothing about this man before this movie, and I am instantly a fan. Great performance, you know, great sympathetic performance without being sappy. And then, and I know this is something that's probably going to piss off a lot of people. I love the last frame of this movie. The shot of Frankenstein crying, actual tears coming out of his eyes. I fucking love that scene. I love that final shot. I think considering everything that the monster's been through throughout this movie, I think that was just the perfect final shot. Like, there is no better final shot for this version of Frankenstein. So, like I said, friends, to me, 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100, no notes whatsoever. This thing is damn near perfection. And obviously, that's very subjective. Obviously, it's very hard for me to be objective about both a Guillermo del Toro movie and a remake of a Universal monster movie. You know, I'm very judgmental about both of those things, but goddamn, if this thing wasn't amazing. I know I'm the highest of the three of us on here, and I know I'm just repeating myself over and over again, but go see this movie. Likely it's not available in theaters where you are. I mean, it's not even playing in theaters in LA anymore, so I can't imagine it's playing in theaters anywhere else, but at least you've got it on Netflix. If you know a friend with a 75-inch 4K TV, go watch it at his house or her house, because trust me, you're gonna appreciate. The bigger the screen, the better. I've got a 65 in my house, and I do wish I'd have seen this in theaters. Unfortunately, I didn't see it when it first dropped because I knew that there was going to be a wider release the following week. And I assumed incorrectly that when it got the wider release, it would still be playing out here in LA. Well, I was sorely mistaken, because once that limited release was over, it wasn't in any theater. I was even willing to go to theaters that I don't have rewards programs for and just pay full price, but literally I couldn't find one. So sadly, I had to settle for, you know, Netflix and my television, but goddamn. And if this thing ever gets re-released in theaters 10, 20 years from now, you can bet your ass I'll be one of the first ones in line to see it. Because again, I think this thing's a goddamn masterpiece. And, you know, obviously there's going to be a lot of people, more people are going to disagree with that statement than agree with it. And that's fine. Again, all opinions are valid. I will never give anyone shit for disagreeing with me on a movie opinion. But for me, I mean, if it weren't for Sinners, this would easily have been my number one movie of the year. It still may end up being my number one movie, but like I said, I have to rewatch everything in December, like I always do. And we'll see where it ends up then. But this goddamn, I could talk about this thing forever. So yeah, let's end this before I just keep going.
All right. Well, you heard it from Venom. That's where we're going to end it. As far as what we got coming up, the main show, if all goes well, we'll be recording tomorrow. And the next episode of Fresh Cuts is going to be Keeper, as far as I know, because that comes out.
Oh yeah,
actually, it's out
tomorrow.
Today.
Well,
yeah, it has
advanced today.
Yeah, the 1-2 night showings today, but this weekend full. How about the two of you? Anything new?
I mean, it's still the same stuff we've been talking about. Creature Comforts episode 42 is still the latest one. That one we looked at Frankenstein versus the Wolfman. Frankenstein seems to be a theme lately. On the next episode, to celebrate Italian Horror Month, Don actually picked an amazing Italian creature feature. I put amazing in quotations because I fucking love the movie. Some people might not think it's amazing, but I'll let Don talk about it if he wants to. So yeah, look out for that later this month, episode 43, our Italian horror, or should I say Italian creature feature episode for the month. And that's pretty much it for me. I'll let Mike talk about the main show and whatever else we've done together, and no other guest spots to really speak about. I am currently in talks with a couple of different podcasts to join them in December for some Christmas episodes. So as soon as something gets solidified or recorded, I will let you guys know, but that's it for me.
All right, Dawn, share the info that Venom passed to you.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to be doing Italian Horror Month for Creature Comforts. And well, I mean, it should come as no surprise to me that I'm picking an Italian creature feature shark movie. So we're going to be looking at Lamberto Bava's Devilfish. Not The Last Shark or Cruel Jaws, but we're doing the other one. We're doing Devilfish, and I think we're just waiting around for schedules to open up just to get that one done. But really looking forward to that one because it's been too long since I've seen that one, and I'm dying to get back into it. Also, like Venom, I'm discussing potential shows to guest on, but until anything is solid and recorded, I shall keep those under wraps because I feel like I've been discussing potential plans for half the year now. So, yeah, I guess I'll just keep things under my hat until they get recorded. So, I guess that's pretty much it for me.
I'm so happy that you picked that movie. Of all the movies that you named right there, The Last Shark and everything, Devilfish is just the most fun. It's
Definitely.
whether it's the quote unquote best, that's a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
But I fucking love Devilfish. There's so much about, and it's not just the monster. I mean, there's endless amounts of comedy in this movie that I fucking love. And it even made for a absolutely classic episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000. So if you want to check out Devilfish, but don't really want to sit through the movie, the MST episode is amazing. One of their funnier episodes out there. And you get to see a Italian nutsack. So hey, there's that.
I thought we were supposed to sell them on the movie.
Well, there's a really attractive dark-skinned girl in it, if that sells the movie. Very attractive. All right, Mike, close us out.
Yeah, speaking of Italian Horror Month, I actually am doing a guest spot on 22 Shots this Sunday, talking 3 Bava movies.
How the fuck have I only been on that show once? And I'm literally the person that color coordinates different streaming platforms that I have access to make sure I have 30 films available for Italian Horror Month.
I think
it's their recording schedule because they got that weird. Are they still recording like early on Sundays?
Not early. It's like I think 2 p.m. our time.
Yeah, that's still too early for me, unfortunately, just because of my wife working nights and sleeping during the day. But yeah, I haven't been on 22 Shots in over 2 years, and it's because of their new recording schedule. It just doesn't match up with what I can do. So hopefully I get back on there someday. I mean, I had a streak of like 3 or 4 Italian horror months in a row where I was on the show, but sadly, like I said, they changed their recording schedule, so it affected me negatively. But what can you do? I still love them to death. So
yeah,
I've only been on there once, and that was back in 2017.
The main thing that kept me in their rotation too is because I started doing a couple spots on their other show, the Sin Bin. So they do a lot of crossover planning between that group chat and the other group chat. So sometimes, like when they're coming up with their 22 Shots itinerary, they'll just ask me like, "Hey, are you free such and such weekend?" And if I am, but like,
nice.
I've tried to not put as heavy load of on my schedule just because more family stuff, more weekend stuff. But this just happened to be a Sunday I had free by chance, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." But Bava, you can't go wrong with Bava, so I'm glad I landed on that weekend. But anyways, yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of Fresh Cuts. We will be back probably less than a week's time since we recorded later with Oz Perkins' latest Keeper. So until then, thanks everyone for listening. Let's say bye to the listeners.
Later.
Happy belated birthday to my favorite giant lizard, Godzilla. You look amazing for a 71-year-old reptile, my friend. Long live Big G.
Peace.